Hey, what's up? Jeff Lerner here, and in this video, we're gonna look at 5 reasons why you should buy a used car, and you should pretty much never, ever buy a used car, except maybe there's a few circumstances, which if we have time, we'll touch on, but generally, just never buy a new car. And there's 5 reasons to buy a used one. In my ongoing quest to help people have a more awesome life, which usually means helping people get a handle on their finances, I'm here to tell you why you should not waste money on a brand new car. Really, this is the only reason you need. I'm going to give 5, but this one by itself is ample enough. Reason why you should not buy a new car is because of this term depreciation. If you're not familiar with the term depreciation means essentially a loss of value in an asset over time. You buy a $30,000 car today. In a month, it's probably lost 10% of its value. The average car over the course of the first year of ownership from being a new car to now a 1-year used car loses between 20 and 30% of its value. Imagine buying a house, a $100,000 house, and after a year, you find out it's only worth $70,000. That would be considered a life-changing financial calamity. And yet, that's what we do with cars every day, so many people. You know, I have to assume if you're watching a video about buying a used car versus buying a new car, you're not so flush with cash that it's just of absolutely no consequence to you. It's 2020 right now. I don't know when you're seeing this video, but let's say you want to get in on the new issue Tesla Roadster that's coming out that's $250,000. Has to be paid with a wire, has to be paid now if you want to get on the list, and you might take delivery of the car in a year or two. Like if you're at that level where you're going to just wire off $250,000 to buy a brand new car that doesn't even exist yet, okay, cool. This video probably doesn't apply to you. But if you're like most people, even most pretty affluent, successful people, buying a new car is insanity. 20 to 30% depreciation in the first year. And then in years 2 through 6, you get an average of 15 to 18% depreciation each additional year. I can tell you that a Tesla Model X and Mercedes G-Wagon are the 2 best cars in terms of holding their value. But still, even those 2 cars depreciate between 40 and 45% over 5 years. Which, I mean, imagine hiring a money manager, a financial advisor who was like, yeah, I'm the best in the world. I only lost 40% of my clients' money on average over the last 5 years. The car industry. The fact that it even exists in the structure that it does, where you have these big dealerships that have all the, they have all these incentives and they have all these perks and they have all these ways that they sort of almost like gaslight you into thinking that you'd be crazy not to buy a new car. I actually am amazed that it persists, frankly, because it's probably, and I don't have data to support this, I'm throwing this off the top of my head, it's probably the single greatest destroyer of individual wealth in the world that people buy new cars. Not only buying new cars, but financing new cars where they're now paying interest on the depreciation. So let's say you're paying 8% a year interest on a car loan, and in the first year it loses 25%. Well, you've probably only paid your loan down maybe 10 to 15%. Let's say it's on a 5-year term, and with amortization, you probably only paid it down, let's say maybe 10%, 12% in the first year. So now you have a loan that's 90% of the original price of the car on a car that's only worth 75%. So even that extra 15%, that's value that doesn't even exist. In other words, you have a financed loan amount on value of a car that no longer exists because the depreciation curve is so sharp at first. You buy a car here, you finance the car here. The loan balance decreases on this kind of a curve where when you first start making payments, you're paying mostly interest, and then the amount of principal reduction speeds up. But the depreciation curve goes like this, which means if you finance a car, you're actually going like this. And look at that gap right there. That could be $5,000, $10,000 of loan amount that doesn't even exist in any form of an asset because the car's already lost the value, and you're paying interest on top of it. Hear me, people. Hear me. This is a debacle. Don't trust the banker that will give you that loan. Trust the banker that says, why are you financing a new car? I'm looking at your financial position. You only made $82,000 last year. You only made $55,000 last year. Heck, you only made $150,000 last year. As your banker, I don't want your relationship with me, your engagement of my services as a financier to put you in a worse off financial position. And I can tell you that looking at this, you make $85,000 a year or whatever you make, or $60,000, and you want to go finance $30,000 that's going to decrease in value by $8,000 in the first year, and you're still going to be paying 7 or 8% interest on that money that no longer exists in the value of the car. I am hurting you to give you that loan. That's the person that you want to do business with. That's the banker you want to bank with. That's the finance person at the car dealership that you actually want to buy your car from. I don't know if that person exists, but that would be an ethical person. Heed my call and don't put yourself in that situation in the first place, because frankly, most bankers and most finance people will give you the loan even though it hurts you. I think I've made my point about depreciation. Hopefully that curve bit makes sense. The next one is it's actually costs less to insure a used car. A, there's more value in a used car, and B, there's more stable value over time in a used car. So an insurance company, when they're underwriting the car and they're creating the policy, or they're underwriting the policy based on the value of the car, they're not just saying, hey, this car is less expensive than it would be if it was new, which means it's less expensive to replace. They're also saying 2, 3, or 4 years from now, if there's an incident and we end up having to replace the car, then the value of the car in a few years is going to be closer to the original insured value of the car than it would be if it was a new car, because of that immediate drop off where they're going, well, geez, if you buy a car new and you insure it and we have to replace it for you 3 years from now, we might be having to buy you a new car to replace a car that's only worth 50% of the car that we're having to replace it with. That's bad economics for them unless they charge you more for the policy. So you absolutely get creamed, not just on the price of a new car, but on the price of the insurance for a new car. And then on top of that, in most states, not all states, some states just have a flat registration fee, but in most states, they actually correlate the cost to register the car and to maintain the car, just to maintain the drivability of the car in the state, to the value of the car. So in most states, you're going to get a triple whammy, not just the price, not just the insurance, but the actual registration. And in fact, some states, I know Massachusetts, for example, is one, they actually charge an excise tax on top of the registration fee that correlates to the value of the car. I mean, there's a reason car dealers, make so much money, and more power to them. They're good business people in some cases, but cars are crippling I would say the middle class and the lower middle class. I don't know if the lower class typically owns cars, but certainly the middle and lower middle classes in this country are generally crippled by the paradigm of car ownership if they don't do it the right way. And then here's another reason why I think the model has shifted. You hear there's sort of an age-old wisdom, buy a new car because it lasts longer, you get the warranty and all this stuff. First of all, you can buy certified pre-owned cars. They give warranties now on used cars. But here's the thing. When's the last time you saw a car that had a 5-digit odometer? They used to sell cars. Most cars used to only have 5 digits. It was like very rarely is a car expected to go into a 6-digit number, like 100,000 miles or more. Now, they don't sell cars. You can't find a car, from what I've seen anyways, that only has a 5-digit odometer. All cars now are expected to run for at least 100,000, if not multiple hundreds of thousands of miles. Cars have so much longer lifespans that the terms new and used, I would argue, now have different phases. For example, is a baby a new person or a used person? Humans live for like 80 years, 75 or 80 years, right? So you don't look at a 2-year-old and go, oh, that's a used human. No, that's a new human. It's a young baby human because we live for 75 years. So as the longer lifespans, the longer the average car lifespan is, the more you can kind of elongate those terms. And I would argue that buying a 1 or 2-year-old car now, the way they manufacture cars, isn't that different in terms of quality and functionality than just buying a new car, especially if you go certified pre-owned, or you can even get manufacturer warranties still on lightly used cars. Understanding how the sort of the built-in expectation of how a car is going to perform and how long a car is going to perform means that I would argue, again, you can buy a 1 or 2-year-old car and still basically be getting a new car in the grand scheme of things, because if it's got 10,000, 20,000 miles on it, if it's going to run for 250,000 miles, I would argue it's still basically new. And that's a paradigm shift that I don't think the world has really caught up to, but just cars last so much longer now. And then finally, it used to be that when you buy a new car, you're getting this relationship with the dealer. You're like VIP at the dealership, and you're going to get all this support, and they're going to help you if there's an issue and all that stuff. But now the internet has created these basically aftermarket communities where, depending on what kind of car you are, if you have if you have a Honda Civic, or if you have a Tesla, or you have a BMW, or whatever you have, you go online and there's like whole forums and whole groups, and frankly, groups where you can get a lot more honest and transparent feedback, crowdsourced feedback from actual drivers and actual users of the car that aren't really trying to sell you anything, right? They have no vested stake. They're just supportive community of owners of that car. So the value of the relationship, this sort of special relationship with the place where you bought the new car, to me is diminished. You can have all the same support, all the same transparency, all the same know-how that's crowdsourced through these communities that you would ever get by going back to having a relationship with the primary dealer that sold you the new car. So in that sense, you go buy a used car from some kind of no-name dealership that you never plan to go back to, and just go online and still have access to all the same knowledge base and then some. In fact, online, it'll be a searchable knowledge base. You won't have to go to the dealer and hope that you get the guy who's working on the day who knows the thing about the thing. You can just go online and type in your search query in the actual forum or in the actual group knowledge base and find out anything you want to know. My wife has a Tesla. We'd have to go to Las Vegas. We'd have to go to Salt Lake. It doesn't matter. I go on the app on my phone and get most of the questions answered that I could ever want to get answered by having a relationship with a dealership. And in that sense, again, I think the value of a new car is less than it used to be. So there you have it. 5 reasons to buy a used car, not a new car. And so if you have questions, comments, what's your experience? I don't know. Share with me below. Write a comment. Ask questions. If you are scanning my videos and what's this channel all about? Is it a car channel? Is it a finance channel? Is it a marketing channel? Is it a business channel? Yes, it's all those things. It's an awesome life channel. I guess a little biography. So I'm the creator of something called EntreNation. It's a community. My YouTube channel is kind of the primary training portal for the free stuff free training that I put out for EntreNation. So if you like this, subscribe. If you like my video, maybe give me a thumbs up. Again, I love your comments. I love your questions. I love helping people have a more awesome life. That is my mission. That is my goal. That is the purpose of this channel. So if you want to have a more awesome life, again, I invite you to subscribe. And whatever you do, don't buy a new car. All right? Thanks. I'll see you on the next one.